we are in the QBO gym, and this is where we have numerous hands-on exercises that simulate real-life scenarios that you may encounter as a bookkeeper. Each month covers a variety of new topics and scenarios, and to make it a little bit easier for you, we break it down into 4 different sections. So if you are looking to work on your bookkeeping skills, this is the place for you. And if you want to do an entire month's worth of these all on your own, be sure to join our free 5-day bookkeeping challenge. All you need to do is click on the link in the description. But let's go ahead and get into today's exercise, which is being pulled from our November Year 1 Strength Training section where we really focus on customization. At the top here is an animated video to give you a synopsis of what is going on in Craig's world this month. He is our fictitious business owner. Further down is an interactive pre-assessment quiz that relates to that video up above. Below that are the exercises in this section. And at the bottom here is an optional area where after you have gone through all of the exercises in this section and completed them, you will unlock some sample marketing posts that you can use on your LinkedIn to share with everyone what you have learned so far. So let's dive into today's exercise where we are going to practice creating bank rules. Go ahead and click on that link to have the exercise come up for you. I have it here on the right side of my screen, so let's read through the scenario. Now that you have been working with Craig for a while and have become familiar with his expenses, you're starting to see some patterns. You decide to set up custom bank rules to automatically categorize some transactions to save time each month. Now, you will need to be in the sample company to do this exercise. If you are not sure how to get into the sample company or get your own free QBOA account, be sure to click on the link in the description. I have the sample company here on the left side of my screen. This is the last bit, or excuse me, this is the dashboard and what it will look like once you sign in. Now, as an important note here, this exercise must be completed in a new session of the sample company. So if you have been working on any of the exercises in the strength training section here in the sample company, be sure to log out and log on for a new session. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with the exercise. Before you begin, take a look at how transactions appear in the bank feed. So we want to, from the left navigation bar, hover over transactions and then select bank transactions. So the left navigation bar is this black bar right here. Here is transactions, hover over that and then select bank transactions. Alternatively, you could have clicked right here where it says bank transactions. This is a bookmark. It's not always in client books, but for here in the sample company, that is another way you could have done this. Now, you may get a pop-up here if this is your first time in the banking area. So go ahead and just click out of it. It's just some information from QBO about what this area is all about. All right, so let's take a look at what we are looking at here. The list of transactions here is the information that came in from the bank mingled with information using QBO logic. So the first thing here is this date. This is the date of the bank feed transaction. We have here description, and this is a shortened version of the detailed information that the bank has about this transaction. When you click on the transaction, you can see the full bank details. However, it's sometimes helpful to see all the details in the grid, especially when you're setting up bank rules, which we will do in a minute. The payee right here is QBO's best guess from the information in the bank feed of who the payee should be. The payee is always a customer or vendor that already exists in QBO. If the payee is blank, like you see here, that means that QBO couldn't make an educated guess from the record. Next is categorize or match, and this is also QBO's best guess. Using the date and the amount only, it will attempt to find an existing unmatched, unreconciled transaction or suggest a category based on past usage. So that's why sometimes it just says uncategorized, sometimes it finds 2 matches, potential matches, and sometimes it just has the 1. Spent and received are the amounts in the bank feed transaction. Now, some banks will also send digital copies of cashed checks. If the bank supports it and a check has been sent, there will be a link in the pay-per-click column. You would see it right here. As mentioned above, description right here is a shortened version of what comes from the bank. Let's go ahead and add the full description to the grid. It will make it a bit easier to know how to set up the bank rules. So we're going to click on the gear icon above the action column, which is right here. And then we want to click on the checkbox next to Show Bank Details. So if I scroll down a little bit, here is that Show Bank Details. Click on that. And you will see that as soon as we do that, the description column has automatically changed to the bank detail column, allowing you to see more information about what is coming from the bank. In the sample company, this still looks relatively quote unquote clean. However, in real life, this can be full of sometimes unrecognizable characters, merchant phone numbers, and other details to help identify the transaction. So just go ahead and click on that gear icon to remove that menu, and you can see that description is now showing as bank detail. So now that we see this, let's go ahead and set up some rules. Ellis Equipment Rental used to be A1 Rental, and that's how they still show up in the bank feed. You can make your job a bit easier by setting up a bank rule to add this name, and since they are always the same category, you can add that as well. Note that the bank detail sometimes includes the term backhoe, like you can see right here. Since this is not always what Craig rents, you'll want to ensure the rule doesn't include this. So let's go ahead and click on the Rules tab. And then if this is your first time in this area, you're going to get this little informational area or this informational page. Just go ahead and click on Go to Rules. And let's create a new rule by clicking on the green button right there. All right, so in this particular column or the field, excuse me, we're going to type A1 equals Ellis. So go ahead and do that. This rule will apply to all money out transactions in all bank accounts. So we're going to leave the settings here as is. Next, we want to apply the rule to all transactions where the bank detail includes A1 rental. So in the description field, we're going to select bank text. We want to keep this as contains. And then in the text field, we're going to type A1 rental. So go ahead and click into that and type that in the box. Let's go ahead and click on Test Rule to make sure that you have set it up correctly to catch the transactions that are currently waiting to be processed. So click on that one right there. And you'll notice that as soon as you do that, it will apply to 2 transactions. There are 3 transactions in the bank feed, but one of them was a money in transaction. So we will have to set up a separate rule for that one specifically. So if you have all of this information typed in the way I have, you should still see when you click on test rule, you should see that it says 2 currently unreviewed transactions it's applying to. Now, once you have found the transactions you want to apply your rule to, then decide what you want QBO to actually do with them. So in the category field, we want to select equipment rental. So scroll down here. Here is the category field. Click into it, equipment rental. If you scroll down just a tiny bit, there it is. It is that expense. In the payee field, we're going to select Ellis Equipment Rental. So click the down arrow, scroll down a little bit, and you will find their name. We're going to leave all the other fields as is. You could also choose to exclude transactions here. This is helpful if your bank tends to send transactions twice, such as a pre-authorization followed by the actual transaction. So let's take a look at some of the additional options. Let's click on plus assign more. So that is right down here. And here you have the option to enter text into the memo field of the transaction. You could also choose to keep the full bank detail as the memo. This can sometimes be helpful when searching later or trying to understand transactions. So let's go ahead and click on the checkbox next to that. Also keep existing bank memo. You also have the choice to automatically add the transaction rather than leave it to be processed from the bank feed. When choosing to auto add, you must be certain that the conditions and the assignments you have selected will be accurate 100% of the time. That's very important. Otherwise, you could end up with problems down the road. One option would be to turn off auto add now, and then you can add it later once you've had a chance to process several transactions and confirm the accuracy of your rule. So let's go ahead and turn that off by clicking on the auto add slider right here. And now that has been turned off because it is grayed out. So now we can just go ahead and click on the green Save button on the bottom right corner. And you can see now that our rule has been created and saved. Ellis Equipment Rental also charges a deposit, and that money is returned when Craig takes the equipment back. You can set up a rule to record putting the money back into the account. So start with the rule you just set up. We're going to click on the down arrow next to Edit and then click on Copy. So if you, mine is not really showing here, but it is right here next to Edit. Go ahead and click on that, and then you want to go ahead and click on Copy. And here we have a new rule created. The nice thing about doing it this way is that most of the information is going to be the exact same thing, so we just need to make a couple of tweaks. So in the name field, we're going to change this to A1 equals Ellis deposit. So delete copy of, and then after Ellis, go ahead and type deposit. This is for money in transactions, so we want to click on the down arrow and change that to money in. We're going to leave this information all the same here. We want to click on Assign More. So go scroll down here. In this area, go ahead and click on plus Assign More. In the Replace Bank Memo field here, we're going to type Deposit Return. So click into that. Go ahead and type that in here. And then we're going to click on the checkbox again next to also keep existing bank memo. So go ahead and do that. You will see here the auto add is still turned off, which is what we want. So now we can just go ahead and click on the green Save button on the bottom right corner. And there we go. We have now the other one that we just created in the rules. So now that we have these set up, let's just go ahead and return to the transactions. Where by doing to do that, we're going to click on Bank Transactions tab, which is up here on the left. So click on that. And here we are back in the checking account banking center. So as you can see, QBO has applied the rules to the Ellis Equipment Rental expenses and deposit. You can see that right here. So we did it correctly. Let's move on to Hicks Hardware. Craig makes a lot of purchases at Hicks Hardware, but if he spends less than $25, they are always going into just a sundry supplies. You never have to select a different category, split the transaction, or make them billable. So we're going to make a rule so that you can save time for this in the future. In addition to using the rules screen, you can also add rules directly from a transaction in the bank feed. So let's scroll down to find the uncategorized Hicks hardware transaction. So I'm going to look in this category right here for Hicks hardware. That one looks like it's been categorized. Let's keep scrolling down and see if we can find it. Here it is towards the bottom. Go ahead and click anywhere on that link. Don't click add, but just click on that, not that link, on the transaction itself so that we can see an expanded version of this. If you get a pop-up, just go ahead and click out of it. Let's go ahead and create a rule by clicking on that. That is down here on the bottom part of that transaction. Go ahead and do that. And now we have this same familiar pop-out that has showed up for us. So in the rule name field, we are going to call this Hicks less than $25. So go ahead and do that. Now, because this was created from a transaction in the checking account, QBO assumes that you want this rule to apply to all money out transactions in the checking account. You could change this to all bank accounts if you want, but for now, we're just going to leave this as is. Also, because you created the rule from the Hicks hardware transaction, QBO is already making a guess that you want it to apply to all transactions that have Hicks hardware in the description. You can see that here. Once again, we're going to leave this as is too. We also need to set a rule to say that it's for transactions less than $25. So let's add the condition by clicking on this right here, plus add condition. On this new line that appears in the first field, we want to select amount. So click on that. Then we want to, in the second field, select is less than. So click the down arrow, go ahead and select that. And then in the third field, we want to type 25. So click into it, type 25. Let's go ahead and test that rule. And you will see that we have one that it currently applies to, one that's unreviewed, which is what we want. So in the category field, let's go ahead and select supplies. So now that QBO knows how to find it, now we need to tell it to categorize it as supplies. So click the down arrow, scroll up just a tiny bit, and you will see supplies there. We're going to leave all the other settings as is. For these transactions, you know that this category will always be correct. So let's go ahead and turn on auto add by clicking on the slider here. Once you do, it will turn green, so you know that it's on. And now we can go ahead and click on the green save button on the bottom right corner. So go ahead and do that. And that rule has been saved. Now, QBO has already categorized and added the Hicks hardware transaction. That's why it has disappeared here. So let's take a look at where that is. Scroll back to the top here, and you will see these different tabs. This one says categorize. This is the one we want, so go ahead and click on that. And there we go. In the list of categorized transactions, QBO shows you that this particular transaction was auto added due to the rule. You can click on the name of the rule name to see the details and change it if necessary. Now, although in the sample company, you only have one transaction in the list right here, in a real life scenario, this tab would show all transactions ever processed. If you were having trouble with transactions that were auto added, you could use the filter to select only those and investigate further. So here's where you would find that filter, and this is where you would look for any to check out any categorized transactions. But that's how you set up bank rules. Now, if you like this exercise and you'd like to do more like it, be sure to join our free 5-day bookkeeping challenge. All you need to do is click on the link in the description. We're going to continue through the strength training section with our next exercise where we customize the dashboard. And I will see you in the next video.